1 year up and 1 year down. Old Spiral Podcast celebrates its 1 year anniversary this week. And to do so, we have compiled a short list of our favorite episodes of the show, what we've learned, and what's in store for the future. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support and listenership. Now, without further ado, here's a look back at 2020.
What a year. You know what? I don't think I have one thing to complain about.
Yeah, I mean, we both did pretty well 2020, I suppose. We were lucky.
Yeah, definitely. As far as 2020 goes, I'd say mine wasn't horrible.
Mm-hmm.
One of the lucky ones.
Well, and you had some really cool life accomplishments 2020.
That's true. I finished school. I got a job.
Yeah.
I got another baby on the way.
Woo!
Coming anytime now.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. I'll have 2 little girls running around.
You got an idea for the name? Are you going to reveal the name?
I don't know. I didn't talk to Caitlin about whether or not I'd reveal the name.
We'll leave it.
Yeah, we'll leave it. I'll make an announcement after it happens.
Cool. Yeah, I did not make it out of 2020 without getting COVID, unfortunately.
I'm still COVID free.
That's awesome.
See what that vaccine does.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it. I can tell you this much, it is not fun to get. It is only what I could imagine the most, I mean, not having experienced this either, so I hope I don't offend anybody, but I can only imagine it would be similar to like trying to kick a hard drug cold turkey. Like that was the level of sickness that I felt. It was terrible. Horrible fever, horrible headache. Don't get it. Wear a mask. Try to social distance if you can. It's not fun. But otherwise, I mean, got to work the entire year, right? I got a pretty kick-ass job myself as well. So yeah, I think all said and done, we made out pretty good this year in our personal lives, you know?
Absolutely. And not only that, but I think we got to do a podcast all 2020. It started, we got together, I mean, we're looking back, I think we did a test recording, not an episode, but a test recording like mid-November of 2019.
Right.
And our first episode came out January 10th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So it started out really well. And what was really cool, what I was pretty impressed about, was the people that were willing to come on right at the beginning before we even had anything.
Right. Yeah.
We did an episode on Casey's, and then I called in a family friend, Bob Thorson, to talk about that Rock to Riches album. Mm-hmm. And then Pete Broyles came in. I mean, I had kind of had a relationship with him, but episode 3, I mean, we had like 40 listens at that point, and he was willing to come in and do the podcast with us and kind of sight unseen, and that was really cool. And the support that we've gotten from the people that are willing to come on and do this has been fantastic. Absolutely.
And I mean, it's through those initial people that we were able to get more guests, and like you said, otherwise maybe this doesn't happen if we wouldn't have had those first few initial guests to sort of give legitimacy to the brand, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we had just a handful of listeners at that time. We kind of didn't really know what we were doing yet. We had an idea of what the show was going to be, of course, but we'd never done a podcast. So it was kind of interesting starting out. But, yeah, it was through the kindness of those first few guests that we were able to continue doing what we do now.
Yeah. I mean, after that, we could approach people and be like, hey, these people have been on, blah, blah, blah. It kind of gave us a little bit of a, something to stand on, and definitely grateful. And we'll probably have to have some of the people back on again.
Oh, I'd love to have repeat visits from many of the people we've had on the show. And we've been lucky enough to have a couple repeats from Skate, from Hogan's. We've been lucky enough to have Dr. Stephen Branting on a few times. And Will Thompson, we've had him on a few times as well. And it's always cool to have have friendly faces back on the show. And, and I hope we do in 2021.
And Gregory Ray seems to pop up in the most unlikely of places.
Oh, that guy. He's a good buddy and a great dude. And he knows everybody. When you're kind and caring and you put yourself out there, you're definitely going to spread a big web, and that's definitely what Greg's done.
Yeah, that's right. And our listenership has steadily increased, you know, a month to month. And I think it was October or November, we almost broke 1,000 downloads in a month.
Yeah.
Which we're just shy. And I was, come on.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, but we're super close. And if we could make that happen, I'd just be stoked.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think we will. We'll get there. I mean, it's just snowballing. Everything's snowballing. And you know, there's all kinds of cool ideas that we have for the show, and some we get time for and some we don't, but we're eventually going to get to all of them, and it just makes the show more worthwhile to check out. So I think we'll definitely hit that 1,000 mile marker, milestone. What am I trying to say?
100%. And, you know, 46 episodes in a year, that's not bad.
Yep.
That's not bad. It's almost one a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially in the midst of a pandemic.
Right.
Or you even
and most of those are interviews.
That's right.
Too.
Yeah.
We only have done a handful of research episodes that you and I just did by ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I kind of like the interviews a little better.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll do more research episodes in the future, but I think even in our research episodes, to have people that come in and know a little bit about it makes it just all that much better.
Yeah, well, and it's just cool to kind of do what we set out to do with the show, which is connect with others that are passionate about the place that we live and find out what their passion is specifically and why. And it's just fun.
Yeah. We've had a lot of good people come in. We've done a lot of fun episodes. So I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't talk about what our favorite episodes have been.
Yeah, great segue.
Thus far.
Yeah.
So, all right, Drew, give me one of your favorite top 5. I don't know how we were able to pick 5.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, they're all super, super fun. And I have my 5 and Brian has his 5. I wrote mine down. I don't know what his are. He doesn't know what mine are. So,
and I don't know what's going to happen when we have the same ones because I'm sure we're going to have an overlap.
I'm sure
somewhere.
we will too. So I'll just pick one randomly here. So I think one of the more recent episodes that we did, and one of the last few ones of 2020, which was with Doug Riddle.
You know, I've already done all the big rapids and everything, and it's just kind of fun to be relaxing and go fishing and check out all the, you know, like look in the caves or the mines and go look at the old homesteads and stuff like that. It's just really cool. And just knowing what's going on up there, it's really, I've been doing it up there for, I don't even know, like over 50 years. And I never get tired of it, you know, not at all, ever.
Oh, Doug, that was awesome. That guy is so interesting.
Yeah, and just a wealth of knowledge about the area, obviously boat building, but so much else. I mean, like, he just rattled off a lot of information that I didn't even know he had about like motorcycles, and he was talking about, you know, he could come back and do a whole episode just on motorcycles.
Doug's
cool.
Definitely going to be one of those guys that does at least 2, maybe 3 episodes with us.
That would be cool. Hopefully he can do that, and hopefully we can make that happen. That would be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can take us out on a boat.
Oh,
that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. One of those speedboats that they're doing now with MotoJet.
Yeah.
Of course, sure. Doug's dad, Norm Riddle, started Weldcraft back in the 60s.
Yep.
And had a motorcycle shop before then. That one was a really cool episode because we post all these, or, you know, most of them on Facebook. And that one got so much attention with people, and all of the comments were super positive.
Yeah.
That'll kind of lead me into my first favorite. But they were so positive. Everyone's saying, I love my Weldcraft boat, and just the memories that they've had, and people were posting pictures, and it got shared. And then another person was saying how Norm helped, I can't remember if he helped start or worked at the Yamaha, I think it was Yamaha shop up in Moscow, and just great memories and pictures and everything like I just said. So that one was great. I love getting interactions on Facebook, and when we strike a chord like that with our audience, and if you do see our posts on Facebook and when you're listening to the episodes, like it, sure, but throw a comment on there. Oh, this is what I remember about that. And I think Casey's got a handful of those, our first episode, and that's that. When I see that people are enjoying it, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it also just reaffirms that, we picked something cool and good, and especially in the case of Doug Riddle and his family, and now Pat, shout out to Pat. Hey, what's up, Pat?
Yeah, we went to school with him. And
yep. Who now continues the legacy of that family, and others in their family too. But, how much they shaped the culture of the LC Valley and kind of put Lewiston on the map for the rest of the world.
Well, shoot, the world championships. And I think it was Australia for jet boat racing.
New Zealand.
I think the race... I think the race was in Australia, but the New Zealanders were mad because they invented jet boating. Yeah, Bond movies, Junkyard Wars. That guy is just a wealth, man.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and it would be cool to just relive some of those memories with him, because I know he's got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. But let's move on to your...
Well, as I was saying, that one got a lot of positive comments and reviews. One of my favorite episodes, which got some interesting feedback, I'll say, it was a threefer, because it was the St. Joe's Nursing Union series.
Yeah.
And from my observation, you have some of the finest, most qualified and dedicated registered nurses that anyone would ever want to have right here at St. Joe's. And you need to recruit new people coming in that want to stay here long term and learn from these experienced nurses, so they can carry on that legacy of the highest level of patient care here in the Valley. And I would hope that the hospital would realize that and make movement in order to achieve those goals.
And of course, we did that because, a few reasons. I mean, I support nursing staff just in general, because it's one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have.
Right.
Your girlfriend, Rachel, nurse.
Yep.
Got to support him.
Good buddy, Joby.
Joby's a nurse. Joby. We've got, my grandma was a nurse at St. Joe's for years and years and years, so we've got some close ties to it. And that's something my brother-in-law Greg was super passionate about. He was right there with them when they first got going, and super involved in the nursing union. And we got to talk to some Teamsters, and I got reminded on Facebook that Teamsters were mobsters and supported by drugs and mobs and all that stuff, which is a totally outdated view, I believe. But that was really interesting to hear about their struggles and the history of the hospital. I mean, the 3-part series was perfect, because we got all 3 sides. We got the history and just a regular someone who it was affecting. It was Greg, and he didn't know a ton of the details. And then we got a couple nurses in that knew a bunch of the details. And then we actually got some Teamsters to sit in and talk about negotiations. And what I love about the podcast is that we talk about, some history. We talk about cool buildings, people, and even current events.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's all just trying, I think, the show, right? And it's tough to define it, I guess, completely. We have, I guess, our little definition, but it's just connecting all that stuff and saying, here are the things that make it worthwhile being here, and here's why this place is uniquely cool. Because, we were chatting before we started recording about, our town has stuff that sucks, of course. Yeah. Everywhere does. There's assholes everywhere. But we happen to have a lot of people that aren't. A lot of people that are really, really cool.
Yeah. We have a lot of weird, maybe not weird, but unfortunate history, but that's just part of being in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also have a lot of really cool history.
100%.
So,
yeah. And we also happen to have a lot of passionate people here, like those nurses that formed the union. And yeah, I agree. That was in my honorable mentions.
I'm good.
I've got a couple honorable mentions because I couldn't just make it 5. But yeah, that was great, and it was really informative, really insightful, and we both can't say enough about how much we support them and what they're doing, and we wish them all the best. And we'll probably update everybody with anything that we learn from them as time progresses as well.
Yeah, as we learned, the negotiations are going very slow.
Right.
So if anything ever does happen, we'll let you know.
It will. They've got some hardworking, persistent folks, and I think they'll make it happen.
Yes, they will.
Yep. Okay, so my next pick, one that I just thought was really, really fun, super kind, nice, happy, friendly people, Coco and Carl Umaker. Those guys were awesome.
I mean, how awesome is it that it turned out that it was just the perfect spot? You know, we could have gone somewhere else, and we actually considered, because we were really wanting to jump into the wine industry. I knew in my undergrad, this was what I was going to do. I was going to make wine. And like at that point with Carl and I and our credentials and everything, we were like, dude, we're going to make wine. Where are we going? Should we do this here? And as we dug pits in the vineyard and like looked at the whole thing, all of what he just told you, we're like, oh my God, this is it. And how cool is it that we have such ties, emotionally to the ground, and pretty sweet.
It was great to talk about, of course, their winery and the legacy of wine in their family in this valley, but also to talk to Carl about the Plus earthworm, which we did an episode briefly on in our anomalies episode. And he kind of corrected some of the stuff that we did or didn't know. And it was just cool because Carl was on the team that kind of rediscovered the earthworm again in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, something like that. What was it, 2008?
I believe it was 2008.
Yeah. So not that long ago. But
no.
That was
what blows my mind is people didn't believe it was there.
Right.
And even though they found it in, was it 40s? Later than that? Was it 40? I don't believe it was.
Showed up in a scientific journal in maybe the 1840s.
Doan. R.W. Doan.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah. So just the fact that he was able to prove its existence, and going back to their wine, they make extraordinary wine, which was proven over again by them winning a handful of platinum awards this last year. I mean, awesome. They're, I think, one of 8 or fewer wineries that have won this many platinum awards for their wine.
Wow.
I can't remember what it said on their Facebook post, but it was they're super award winning.
Yeah, and again,
grown right over there in Lewiston,
right?
Processed and everything, and they're just very talented people.
Yep, talented and passionate about what they do, and again, that's just what we love. And another couple of guests that I would love to have on again.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
They've got a beautiful venue. I love playing music up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever that's going to be possible again.
Yeah, and again, I haven't got to sample the wine or check out the venue, as I am not much of a wine aficionado, but because of COVID.
It's fun. We'll have to, usually their tastings are only for their members, but I think they'd probably make an exception for us. And you got to go up there, because even if you're not a wine aficionado, some of the stuff, even if you wouldn't want to drink a few glasses, because wine's not your favorite maybe, even though it's good wine, just some of the different tastes and stuff. It's crazy what they can do with grapes and presses and time.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right, what do you got next?
Okay. Let's see. What am I going to do next? Oh, this is so difficult because we have so many good ones.
Well, I got one that I'm sure that you and I are going to share, so let's just make this a throwaway one for both of us.
All right.
Spiral Rock.
Really cool. And I know this is a community-based podcast too, is when we harvest our grapes, like how we met Nick, was
harvest party.
We have a harvest party. Instead of paying a bunch of hired hands to come clip our grapes, we just have volunteers from the community come up, and then all that money that we would have spent on paying for labor, we just spent on a nice party with cool music, live music. It's an amphitheater.
Expand
up
your
here.
family that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're constantly like Nick. You end up with these people that kind of come into your life and they they stay.
When you thank people as they're leaving for coming, they go, "No, thank you for inviting us. Thanks for hosting
Thanks for
this.
having
We'll be
us."
back next year."
Right.
So Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. The harvest party this year.
Oh my gosh, that one was a blast.
That was by far one of my
All
favorite
right, let's
ones.
give a little background to everybody that this is a little bit of insight here. Oh man, I'm sorry. Doug, right? That's his name? Oh, Drew's failing too. The guy's from Spiral Rock. I'm sure it's Doug. Anyway,
I think it is.
I'm messaging him saying, "Hey, let's do a podcast. I'd love to come up and we'll do one on location." He's like, I don't feel comfortable doing it alone. It's a group effort and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have another couple people do it with me. I'm like, all right. We'll go up there. It'll be me and Drew, one, there might be 4 of us total, maybe 5. That'll be fine. We go up. They had 7 because they had 7 and then it was us, right?
And also, one Gregory Ray.
Yeah, he snuck his way in. But and so I'm sitting there. I brought up a handful. I brought up like all the mics I had, and it wasn't even enough.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, let me figure out how to do this.
And it was also our first remote recording. We'd never done a recording outside of the studio, so
That's right.
that was cool too.
And it might not have been the easiest one if you're a listener to maybe follow along with all the different voices
But you
and
did a
trying to
great
remember
job
who
of
everyone
editing.
was.
You did a good job, and I think it sounded good.
No, it did. And I'm definitely getting better at that. But, man, it was just a blast. And I don't know if it was the alcoholic kombucha and wine that we were drinking that made it so fun.
I think
that was
it was
one
the
of my
people.
favorite parts because you could hear the wine glasses
Clinking around,
hitting
people
the
taking
table,
drinks and-
glug glug glug,
Yeah.
the wine filling.
Yeah, well, and for me, that was the first time that I'd tried much of that stuff. So, and it's delicious. If you're listening to this now, it's delicious. Go buy some. You can buy it all over the valley. I mean, go back and listen to the episode because I don't know right off the top of my head all of the places where you can get it, but there are several throughout the valley. And
if you've never tried kombucha, you're a little wary about it, or if you have, like from a grocery store and not liked it, don't write it off
yeah,
because theirs is very good.
it just tastes like delicious juice.
Yeah.
Some kind of really good fruit juice. It's super
And they
good.
make it from fruit that right there on their property. And
Which is amazing. You should, if you can, and when things are back in full swing, go up there. It's beautiful.
yeah, and I do believe that they do private parties is mostly what they're doing. So if you get a group of 5-10 people and you are like, man, we should do something fun, go up there. I think that's 10 people's within the limits nowadays. Flipping COVID, what a year. But yeah, so get a group of people, your COVID crew, I believe is what it's called, and go up and try some kombucha, and their wine is good. They do a white
All
wine.
of it was
and
delicious. I mean, everything they gave us was very good.
that was a blast. We met a lot of good people and just had a wonderful time, and
We
I think
hung
that
out
comes through.
for a long time after and jammed a little music. You did. I
Oh,
didn't.
that's right. Yeah, we did the jam. So if you go back through, I do a lot of I do all the music for the podcast, and we had a little jam session, and I played a riff while I was up there that we all jammed to. It's the same riff that's in the episode, the music for that in the intro. So
Yeah, and I mean, the weather was perfect. Again, the scenery, the space, just their story. I think everything about it just really made it a cool episode and a really, really neat experience. And Billy, if you're listening, we're gonna hit a stream soon and go fish. We've been trying to steelhead all winter, and I keep getting sick or can't do it because of XYZ. But yeah, Billy's an awesome guy. Billy also does amazing artwork. If you haven't checked out his artwork, check that out. But yeah, that was also, I mean, just one of my all-time favorite episodes so far.
yes, 100%. Now my favorite. I'm gonna go out of left field here. I'm gonna choose a favorite thing. Now this isn't something we've done a lot, but something I want to do a lot more of. The artist spotlights,
Yeah.
they're kind of my favorites. I mean, we've had Henry Funk in.
Well, they call me the fireman. That's my name. Making my rounds all over town, putting out on flame.
That was kind of a duel also, because we talked about firefighting a lot of it, but also because he's a local musician. And we've had Jamie Laws in, a local artist.
What I did then is like really start to see the beauty around here. And I was just like, man, this is like the greatest place to raise kids. It feels so safe. Everything's gorgeous. I love these rivers. I love these hills. I mean, just everything about it. Like I'm obsessed with the Palouse. Like I could just like take pictures of the Palouse all day and it'll be like 400 of the same picture, when you look at it.
And I think the idea of doing artist spotlights is super fun. And I know that there's a handful, if not more, musicians and artists that I want to have in and have on the podcast. Because for being such a small place, I mean, I like to refer to it as a big small town. There's so much great music and art and all sorts of things that you wouldn't expect to come out of this town.
Yeah, I mean, I think as there should be. There's so much beautiful stuff to reference around here. If you're an artist, you've got the Palouse, you've got the Blues, the Craig Mountains, the Lochsaw, the North Fork. I guess if you're just specifically into nature, maybe, but there's all kinds of stuff that you can reference. There's all kinds of cool history, and like you said, maybe even problematic history if you want to talk about that through your art. It's just a really cool place if you are an artist, I think.
And there's plenty of venues for artists to have expression, places where paintings are hung, places to play music in better times. Jeez, dude, it just keeps coming up. You can't escape it. Cannot escape the COVID. Or my daughter yelling, if you heard that, if your volume's up loud enough.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I agree. I think we talked about that before the show started, that this year we need to do more artist spotlights. And we've got some on deck that we can reach out to that would be great. And yeah, I'm hopeful for that too in 2021. I'm sitting here trying to look at my list.
Yeah, what is your next favorite?
Anytime we have Dr. Stephen Branting on.
If you weren't going to say it next, I was.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm nearly 230. These are firsts. Okay, it happened first here in Lewiston. Lewiston was the pioneer in this, either in the state, the region, the nation, the world. It happened here. And it is a phenomenal legacy, this community. Anybody who thinks that Lewiston doesn't have any heritage or any legacy or is a boring town, which somebody told me the other day, it's just boring town. I told them, you certainly don't know much about this town. This is one of the most interesting towns you could ever imagine.
And he is going to come back for more. I was telling somebody about having him on the 2 times that we've had him, and he was saying someone's got to sit down and extract that guy's knowledge. And I said, man, we're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly my next point. It's just amazing how articulate and eloquently he speaks about our history. And it's just really nice to sit there and listen to him tell a story.
And he's got tons of stories.
Yes. He knows them all.
So Steve Branting, local historian and educator.
Yep.
And the amount of work that he puts in to getting these stories and all the information on the history and everything else, it's impressive, and
super impressive.
The way his mind lines it all up and lines it all out, and the way he's able to relay sometimes this complicated information it's great, and I'm so glad he's been on the podcast.
Well, and it's not often, I guess, coming from an academic space, we can, I haven't gotten as deep into it as you have, obviously, but I think we can both say confidently that academics aren't always as cool to talk to as Stephen Branting is. And he is definitely an academic, but he's definitely also just a really great person.
Well, and one of the things you don't think of science, which is of course what my degree was in, as being a storytelling thing, but one thing that a lot of academics don't do as well, and one of the things that my advisor really pressed me to do, was make it a story.
Right.
Even when I was doing my whole swimming pool air thing, you make it a story. You say, here's an introduction. This is where it started, and this is what we know, and not only that, but being able to relay this information in an understandable way, which he does he does it well.
Well, and I mean, how many times have you or I both sat in on a talk at a conference and just listened to somebody talk about data sets, and you don't remember any of it, but if they build a narrative into it and they're a really entertaining speaker, of course you remember it for sure. That would have been the thing that you remembered from the conference.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what he's great at, is really being captivating and really just being passionate about the work and researching and finding out more.
So before I get to my next favorite, I just want to say it's Stu Davis. That was my bad. It's not Doug. I was dealing with a different Doug.
Yeah.
From, I'm sorry, Stu Davis from...
We just got done talking about Doug Riddle.
Yeah, we did. Stu Davis from Spiral Rock, and just everyone that was involved with that. So thank you, Stu. Your name is Stu. It's Stu.
It is Stu.
Not Doug. Stu. All right. So, oh, man. My next favorite is going to be, and mostly because it's one of my favorite hobbies, right up there with music, brewing, is Pete Broyles.
First beer that we brewed was our blonde, which we're still making. The day we opened, we had 3 beers on tap.
Oh,
We had
okay.
the blonde, we had the stout, and we had the IPA, the Seven Devils IPA. And then shortly after that, we added the River at Red, and then we added the Pale Ale, and then we added the Bock. And I just kind of, and then the original intent was we'd have 4 beers year round, and then we'd have 2 that we would have seasonals.
And again, him coming on as, I guess technically our second guest, was super cool, and I really enjoyed Pete's episode.
Yeah. Yep.
That was really neat, learning the history of Riverport and his introduction. That's what I love, is learning how these people get into doing what they do.
Right.
And it was just really neat how he started really small and got a little bigger and decided, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to open a brewery here. And I think of course, the first brewery here, Wise Gerber, first brewery in Idaho.
Right.
But after Prohibition, I think there's only been barley hoppers.
Yep.
As far as I know. Could be wrong.
As I know, too.
So that was really neat. Pete was wonderful to talk to, and you know what, we might have him back in someday.
Oh, that'd be
we'll
great.
see what happens.
That's another one that I think would be great to go do a remote recording session and go hang out at Riverport.
Yeah. And 2020, why did you do that to us? Please go support Pete during this time of COVID.
Absolutely.
I remember when COVID first came out, sidetrack. I remember when COVID first came out, and we were like,
it's product rollout.
Yeah, and we were saying, just, I think one of we did a short COVID episode just saying, hey, I've figured out how to do, internet stuff and phone calls through recording, and I had a point, and it was that we didn't have any idea it would last so long.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
And I think I said almost quote, we'll try to keep mentions of COVID to a minimum and just try not to talk about it, because this is a positive podcast, and now it's coming up every 5 minutes because it's just a serious part of our lives now.
Yeah, and it's reached a fever pitch. I think people they're ready one way or another to do something about it, whether that's good or bad. We could talk about for days also, and I'm sure you guys have in your houses too, but yeah, I never would have anticipated it taking this long. I thought when we first started hearing rumblings about it that by the time it hit the U.S., we'll have it all figured out, and it won't be a big deal. And you think back to like SARS and MERS and so on, and bird flu, whatever.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something similar where it's just it might affect a few people, but then they'll get it figured out really quick.
And believe it or not, I think we are keeping COVID mentions to a minimum. It just happens to be so huge. But go support Riverport. Go support small businesses, especially
any
in Washington.
Washington.
Any restaurant. Get some takeout from Hogan's, Hazel's, Roosters, Pareja Cellars. Go buy some of their wine. And a lot of these places you can't dine in, you can't go in and hang out. What Riverport's done outside, because they're lucky enough to have the space to do it, is pretty cool, and they're doing okay. But I mean, all of their sales are way down, and as a community, we have done a wonderful job.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really have. But go down, get a growler at Riverport, have a pint, keep it going. But yes, Pete was my. Whoa, what is that? 3 or 4 now?
I think that was 3.
I think that was 3. All right, so you're on 4.
Yeah, no.
No, you're on 5.
That must have been 4. Yeah,
I could have swore it was 4. All right, this is your last one.
So this might be another overlap for you. Maybe, I don't know. But Hogan's.
Yeah, I would want them to know that Hogan's is a comfortably cool bar where you get to be, you get to be whatever you want to be. I mean, you can come as you are. We aren't. There's no issues with how you want to be and how you want to act. Don't be an asshole. That's it. That's kind of the rule.
Yeah.
That's it, really. No arm wrestling and don't be an asshole. Like that's kind of it. I want people to know that it's a comfortable place. It's a safe place. We take great care in the drinks that we picked out, the beers that we have on tap, the beers that we have. Like we try to curate something that covers just something for everybody, and that's what we just kind of want to be everybody's bar.
Having Skate come on to talk about Hogan's was awesome, and again, just the history of where that starts, where Hogan's was a sporting goods store and like an outfitting place where you could go get tackle for fishing, and turns into like a little cafe, and then turns into a bar.
Well, it's like the 20s or 30s, right? We're talking 1920 or 1930. He said he found a bingo card from the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a cafe, and one of the things that I love about Hogan's was my grandpa had he was a mechanic. He had a shop across the street, and ever since I was 3-4 years old, we'd have lunch there every day. So you got my grandpa and my mom would have lunch there. You've got me, and now you've got my kids. So we've got 4 generations in my family that have been going to Hogan's on a regular basis.
And now I live just down the street, and when this is over, I definitely will be eating there a lot more and hanging there in the summer for sure, outside and relaxing. It's a great place. It's a great space. We mentioned in the episode how good the food is, how cool the space is. If you're more artistically inclined and more cultural than, let's say, some of the other folks in town, this is your bar. This is where you come hang out.
It really is one of my favorite places to play music, not just on the stage, but I think one of my favorite music playing experiences was hanging out 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and we're outside in the summer and playing a song. I think it was Psycho Killer by the Talking Heads, and everyone was singing out loud and screaming at the top of our lungs, and we were all out there having just a blast, and that was just one of my favorite. I mean, a lot of my favorite times have been at Hogan's.
Right. Yeah, it's a cool place. It's the only place like that in this valley. I can say that confidently. There's nowhere else like it.
And the food is delicious.
The food is very good.
I always tell people, like, you might not expect it, and you might now because they're doing a ton of remodels. So, but I mean, walking in there, especially before, like right when Skate took over, and before then, you've had the booths that have been around since I was 4,
right?
And everything else. You might not expect it to have the food at the high of quality that it is, but it's unbelievable. It's some of the best bite size in the valley, and their burgers are out of this world.
Yeah, and also on those lines, Skate talking about spending all of the time and painstaking effort that he does to make a good mixed drink, to make a good cocktail, to research what alcohol is going to go best with these XYZ ingredients. And doing stuff from scratch, making things that are actually good. It's not just stuff from a mixed bottle. And
no, he's an excellent. All the bartenders are excellent,
Yeah.
but Skate's been doing it for years, and the quality shows through. And that's another one of those passions.
Absolutely.
He's got a passion for it, and it shows.
Mm-hmm. And Skate's also super vested in the community.
City council member, board of health,
and we've had him on as well to discuss those things, and we probably will again in the future, I'm sure. But Hogan's, that was one of my favorites, and that is the last on my top 5, and I have some other honorable mentions.
All right.
But now it is your turn.
This one's going to throw a light bulb on for you. This episode was a sleeper, in my opinion. You know which one I'm talking about yet?
I don't.
Oh, the Asotin County Library.
You know how the hills, sometimes they're straight up and down, and sometimes they lie down, and sometimes they're brown, and sometimes they're green, and sometimes they're pink? I love that, and I love Swallow's Nest, and I love the people. I love the people who come in the library, and they're just kind and appreciative and good people. I don't know, it's just a nice pace of life, and it's good people, and I love the river.
That one was, I'm like, okay, let's do the library. The library is super important. Also down the road from my grandpa's mechanic shop, so when I got into touching too many stuffs in the shop, they'd send me down to the library to go touch things down there. And I spent a lot of time in the library, and I thought, yeah, let's definitely do. My brother-in-law, Bryce, is on the library board, and I thought, yeah, let's definitely do an episode on the library. Libraries are super important and a great integral part of the community and all this stuff. But I learned so much stuff about what the library does, and I was just shocked.
Mm-hmm. And it sucks that we didn't know, but now we do, and I know that both of us will be taking advantage of all of the cool visits that they get from artists, from authors, all of the cool nights that they have for adults and kids.
They do they have professors come in and go to Basalt Cellars, and they do talks, and you have wine, and they have book clubs, obviously. And I think what impressed me the most was how much they do for the community as far as helping people get jobs. You can they'll help you make a resume. Right. They'll help you apply for jobs. You can get certified in Microsoft Office for free. Right. All this is for free. You can get free Wi-Fi, and even during COVID, golly. What a year, everybody. Even during COVID, you can still go rent a laptop and use their Wi-Fi just right there from the parking lot. Grab a computer, use it in your car to get whatever you need done.
Well, and the work that they do to get grants, to continually update, renovate, get more equipment, get more books, get more funds for all of those events that we just discussed. Yeah, that truly was a sleeper, and that is a really great episode with a lot of information. And the librarian there is a very kind, very insightful woman, and that was a great episode.
Yeah, it really was. It definitely worth one of the top 5s. All right, let's hear some of your honorable mentions.
I just have a couple here. I think the one that started it all, Casey's.
And a couple influential figures that made it in the music scene that you'll probably have heard of.
Yeah, he really struck it up with Power Revere and the Raiders. That was the year when he had Roy Orbison come play.
Yeah, Roy Orbison at the top of Roy Orbison when he had chart-topping singles.
And I mean, not only that, but they had bands like the Wailers,
the Champs,
Dick Cates and the Chessmen. Steppenwolf played before they were called Steppenwolf.
They were called Sparrow. The great Jimmy Page played downtown Lewiston with the Yardbirds, drew a crowd of 2,200 people, and rocked the socks off.
Oh, that one was so much fun.
And that's how we started this show, because we thought, how can we talk about this really cool thing, this really cool era that doesn't go talked about at all, really, and still doesn't even now, about Casey's and our town's connection to rock and the history of it and the beginning of it, really.
So I have some information for you.
Cool.
Remember that mural that we talked about that somebody made in there? It was like,
oh, the psychedelic one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and I am going to have to remember who I was talking to about it. Someone that I know knows the person that still has it.
Whoa.
It exists, and it is in town.
That's cool. We got to go look at that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it disappeared.
I wonder who originally created that.
See, we're going to have to find out. That's why we're going to have to someday...
We have to commission that person to make us original art for the show.
Mm-hmm.
If they are still around.
Yeah, maybe. That was a long time ago.
That was a while ago.
I was just so impressed at all the bands that played.
Yeah.
And of course, the pinnacle, the great moment of 1969 when Jimmy Page and the rest of the Yardbirds came and played in Lewiston, Idaho. I mean...
Well, and the persistence of Pat to keep it going.
Pat Patori. Because he screwed up his name like 50 times.
Patori.
Pat Patori, yeah.
But yeah, just like despite so many setbacks of just competition from other spaces,
noise ordinances,
pesky pastors, just a general opposition to long-haired hippies and rock music, all this stuff, and also his persistence and willingness to go above and beyond to innovate. Like he had
the light show,
the biggest regular light show, psychedelic light show between San Francisco and Chicago, and that was true. He did. And I mean, the stuff that he incorporated, like the runway lights, and I'm talking about the runway for like an airplane.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine how bright that would be?
That would be insane.
And, it was just a really cool place. I wish I could have been a part of that. I wish I could see what it looked like in its glory and its heyday.
Besides black and white pictures.
Right. And to have been able to have access to that and to have lived that when you were at that age, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, and I got 3 things on it. 1, no alcohol, and it was mostly for, high school kids, which was really...
And college kids.
Yeah. But, I mean, who does that? Who gears something for young kids anymore, which is 100% something that young kids need.
Yep. That is one thing that the Valley even now is lacking agency of, is a space for young people.
Right. Keeps them out of trouble and gives them something to do. And that would be one thing, a plague and something that I see. And my brother's got some friends and he's 19. He's moved back to town and they're pretty, there's nothing to do here. And it's like all that. And it's like, well, there should be.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 was that after it started getting a little bit more psychedelic in the late 60s, fights and everything else went down.
Right.
You kind of have this connotation, or especially back in the day, that, hippie music and all that stuff, you can bring in drugs and all these things. No, he didn't even want alcohol. It wasn't a place for that, and everything kind of mellowed out with that. And, a 3 was when we did that episode, and I should have known when we did that episode this was going to persist throughout. Every time we go to learn something new, or we think we know what we're going to learn when we do an episode, we learn many more things over.
Right.
We learned about light shows, the history of light shows with Casey's. When we did the Old Spiral Highway episode, we learned about these guys who had ties to Charles Francis Adams, who was Sam Adams' grandson, and Quincy Adams' son, and that his kids had a house out on the Clearwater. That was what Branting told us last time. And every time we do an episode, we learn way more than we ever think we're going to.
Yeah, we only scratch the surface too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always more to be said, and we've talked about it a number of times, and I hope we do at some point soon revisit Casey's and talk more about the cool stuff and times that were had there at Casey's.
Oh, we'll definitely have to try to hit that up.
For sure.
I've got an honorable mention.
Let's hear it.
And no one would know. This is another little bit of background info. This is not necessarily my favorite episode, but I think that the memory we're going to have from doing this episode is going to bring a smile to my face for a long time. The Anomalies episode is like 25 minutes long. It must have taken us 5. I don't know. We were drinking goofy juice or something.
Yeah, it took a long time.
We couldn't say anything without just laughing and having to start over and start over.
Well,
and start
there was
over.
also some behind the scenes script writing that made it difficult to not laugh.
Well, you know, it's just funny.
It was funny. It was tough to record, not because.
Well, the whole intro when I started with the Palouse Earth, we were just listening to it. And I'm like, who am I? Picture this. I can grow up to 1 meter in length, with a viscous coating, translucent skin revealing internal organs. My spit reeks of lilies, and I have dwellings that stretch out up to 15 feet below the Earth's surface. I am one of the most unique and curious life forms living in the Palouse. Can you guess my name? Well, my spit, it may not really stink of lilies. That's a myth. But then again, there are many myths about me. In fact, until recently, some didn't even believe in my existence. I am, of course, the giant Palouse earthworm. And it was just the funniest.
Yeah, it was fun. It was difficult to do.
Blast. I think both of us were just done.
Yeah.
At the end of it, but we had so much fun doing it.
It was fun. Yep. And again, to that point, we do need to do more research-driven episodes where it's just us shooting the breeze with what we learned.
Right.
Another honorable mention, or did you have more to add on that?
No, that's all I got.
The few Halloween episodes that we did.
Oh, that was fun.
Both just us kind of talking about events that were going on and things you could do around the valley to celebrate Halloween. And then also when we had Slash on.
Oh, the surrounding Lewiston area spirit hunters.
Right.
That was a blast.
That was fun. And I didn't have any idea what to expect.
No, I didn't either.
And
I was just like, oh, ghost hunters, gotta have them on.
Yep.
There was a lot of controversy. There was a lot of sneaking around. There was murder. There was, a lot of the Chinese that were here were not treated well and died horrible deaths. A lot of the prostitutes, and it was all kind of confined to Main Street, Lewiston. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Felt like you were among the otherworldly, and we did, and it was great. Definitely go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. I'm still not sold on ghosts, but I like the idea of ghosts, and I like the idea of people that have cool stories about their weird experiences. And so again, that's another one that I hope we revisit in the future.
Well, there's much more haunted stuff that we even talked about.
Yeah, we've got big plans for Halloween next year if things are able to return to the way that they used to be. But we will see. Hopefully that happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We'll still have fun. But
if it's not back by this time, I'm not even going to say it because it won't be then. And now I'm not moving on.
Get the vaccine.
Got any more honorable mentions in you?
Yeah, one last one. Greenfield.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring that up and forgot.
Yep.
They liked having the access point. I got to the shop, I'm locking everything up and putting all the product back in the vault. And I look outside and here's this taxi. And out stands this little old woman. She was in her 80s. She had a cane. She was having trouble getting out of the taxi. And she's walking up gingerly to the door, and she sees closed by court order. And she just sat there, stared in awe, like, what am I going to do? This is what I need. The elderly people are looking for an alternative to pharmaceuticals that they don't think are good for them and they can't afford them. And this poor old lady, the city council just told her to stick it.
The story that Matt told that I threw in the introduction for that episode, where
it was heartbreaking.
Oh, the little old lady gets out of the cab and uses marijuana to help her creaky bones or whatever. That was just the whole story of, well, shoot, that's another one of those. The whole city council almost got voted out because they were trying to block what Washington had already passed.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a cool episode.
And Matt is just a heck of an entrepreneur. You know, he's a really cool guy, really fun to talk to. And, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that episode. And again, I hope to have Matt on again in the future and
talk about his cigar shop,
talk about his cigar shop,
cigars and all that.
Yeah.
Really good cigar shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So those are my honorable mentions. Those are my favorite episodes. And yeah, it's just been awesome over the last year to do all this. And in that respect, we have learned quite a bit about the show and doing the show.
Yeah.
And,
well, when we started, I had like 3 microphones.
Mm-hmm.
I had recorded myself a little bit. That was I'd recorded myself a little bit playing music. None of it was up to any sort of standards.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many hours I spent reading online. Like, what do you do? Like, not only just getting it's called a DAW, everybody. It's a digital audio workstation. So basically microphone into mixer into computer, and you work on it and do all your editing on this digital audio workstation, and trying to figure out, oh no, we made a mistake here. How do I cut this out and move it together? And then fading in and fading out. And
then also just logistics. Where do we host this podcast? How do I get it on Spotify? How do I get it on iTunes, XYZ?
Right,
you know?
I forgot about all that.
That stuff. How much is it going to cost? How is it annual? Is it, how do we get a Patreon?
Neither of us really had jobs at that point.
No. Yeah. I had gotten laid off. I just got done with school. You're still in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tricky time. But yeah, that was definitely a big part of the learning curve. And like you said, with mics and stuff, we've both been musicians since we're teenagers, and there's a difference between speaking for a crowd, which we're more accustomed to, than speaking to an audience you can't see through a microphone, just staring at each other's big mugs. And
yeah, I'm even thinking about that. I'm sure we've gotten better at that too.
Yeah, for sure. I know we have. I mean, if we went back and listened to them, which I don't really go back and listen to the super old ones, or
I'll do on occasion. I don't generally make it through the whole thing, but every once in a while I'll be like, I wonder what that sounded like, and I'll listen to a snippet of it.
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. Just getting more comfortable doing that. I just broke some of my rules and some of our rules for the show also just now, which is getting used to not saying and ah and yeah and definitely and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, dude, cool.
It's so hard not to do that, right?
Well, yeah, it's like your brain kind of spaces out for a minute. Cool, and you're trying to think of the next thing to say and all that, and
yeah,
I don't know. But like you said, even before we got to that point, it was all right. How do I make the sound in this room doable? So I went online, and I've got some acoustic foam, which basically disperses the sound waves so you don't get echoes. And like, I hung a bunch of stuff on the walls and all this stuff, and I try to keep things in the corners to break up the sound. And I mean,
well, because for the folks at home that obviously haven't been in here, without that stuff, this is just a room of hard surfaces. Like the ceiling is like hardwood of some kind, right?
Yeah,
some kind of wood. The floors are just like a hardwood type of thing.
It's just an 11 by 12 bedroom.
Yeah,
and I think you can probably hear right now. That's a hot water heater. Eventually, I'd like to get a door for this. I mean, there's still improvements to be made, I guess is what I'm getting at.
For sure. And I mean, I think even if we were in a professional studio, all Howard Stern or whatever, it would still, be something you could continually work at.
Yeah.
But I think another thing, like you mentioned before, was editing, which you do a great job of. Everybody clap for Brian because he edits all of these episodes. And, I'll come in with ideas and just say, hey, this would be cool if... And then Brian kind of makes it happen.
Well, the Halloween episodes, the scary music and all that,
or like just starting to do like our little monologues that we do for the intros, or like, hey, it would be neat if we like took a snippet out of the show and put it up front.
That was a good idea.
Like stuff like that, and then you always are able to bring it to life, and that takes time, that takes dedication, that takes know-how, and yeah, it's a big part of the show, and without it, the show wouldn't be as good or as polished. So everybody give Brian a hand wherever you're listening. I don't care if you're in public or not, you have to clap.
Yeah, well, hey, there you go. Driving, I don't know, you just do it quick. And the format of the show, like you mentioned, this one's just you and me, so I'm not going to do the whole take a snippet out of the show. But that was one thing. I don't know how we came up with that. It was just kind of something we both dawned on us. Like, you know what?
I stole it from a podcast.
Well,
I stole it from another podcast.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, some point in the episode.
Oh, how do we choose?
Yeah, how do we choose what we do? It just seemed like some point in every episode, someone would say something that they liked about the Valley.
Right.
And we're just like, okay, let's take a chunk of what they said about what they liked about the Valley and put it up front.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been the running thing, is that's the snippet we choose. And now, in the little background story, we, at some point in the episode, a little over halfway, will try to nudge someone into saying what they like about the Valley
right.
without them knowing, preferably.
Yep.
And so we can throw that up at the front.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it mostly does.
Yeah, sometimes we have to take 2 or 3 runs at it.
But
yeah, they'll start and then Drew and I will just get real quiet.
Yeah.
And hope we get a good snippet out of it. Oh, man. But, you know, I don't know. What else is that?
I think those are the biggest things. I think trying to get, like you said before, more listener engagement, whether that's through folks at home emailing us and saying, hey, this is what we really liked.
Love the emails. That's one thing.
Shout out, by the way.
Yeah, that was an email we got from a listener. What was it, Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad. He sent us. I love getting emails from people, and this was this one. It's just nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sent us a super cool, supportive email, and was just talking about what he liked about the show, and happy to see that it exists. And for us, that again is reassuring rather that we're doing something of value to people. And great.
It goes back to what you were saying. We don't get feedback.
Right.
We're in a room
and we're
with each other.
We're trying to get more of that engagement all the time, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or through emails, which hopefully you email us directly and tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong if we're doing something wrong. What would you like to see out of the show? Do you have good ideas for us? Interview ideas, topic ideas? You know, that's really what we want to do next, I think. And what we've always wanted to do is connect more with the listeners, because we can't possibly know everything about the Valley that's cool. There's so many things.
That's right.
You folks at home that listen, you know some stuff that we don't. So please share that with us. Share those positive things, share those negative things if there are any. But yeah, just the engagement with listeners. That was kind of a thing that we were working on all the time too. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into doing this. There's a lot that goes into starting a podcast from scratch with zero experience in broadcasting, recording in this way, interviewing people. It's been work for us. And if I don't say so myself, I think we're doing a good job.
I would like to think so.
Yeah. We're going to do better all the time.
It's constantly getting better. Mm-hmm. Everywhere from the audio quality to our interview styles and the format of the podcast, and we're falling into a groove, which is nice.
Yep. And again, as you mentioned before, we're both gainfully employed, so we have a bit of a budget now. So hopefully we can take the show remote. We can go out and about, buy equipment, that kind of thing.
Well,
But if you would,
however,
be so kind as to head to Patreon, give us a little dollar here or there.
I was just going to say that.
If you would be into that kind of thing, you can head to patreon.com/Old Spiral Podcast and become a subscriber that way. And you also get access to exclusive content. Anyway,
commercial-free episodes, early releases when possible. I throw some, like we said earlier, I do the music for the show every once in a while. I'll throw up some music. I'll probably have to do that. There's a whole bunch of songs. I was going through a bunch of the old episodes looking for clips and everything, and there's a bunch of songs that I'll do the whole, 3-5 minutes of a song, and I'll only put 30 seconds of it in the introduction, and I'll throw those up there, and it's a way to say thank you. As far as the budget goes, hopefully we can start getting some merchandise. And the first thing we do when we're going to get merchandise is send it to our Patreon subscribers as a thank you. And then we'll have some for sale probably at Greenfield Glass and Goods, which is the store next to the pot shop. And they have records and local artists' art and musicians' music and a whole bunch of stuff other than just glass pipes.
Greenfield Mercantile.
That's right. Thank you for our Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would also like to find another way, because Patreon's a month-to-month thing. But hopefully one of the things I'm planning on doing in this next year is we should try to get a website going, and then we'll have a place where you can do a one-time donation if you want to.
Well, and the other cool thing, and the other thank you, not to get hung up too much on Patreon donations and yada, 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 but we're able to do the show, at least host it for free.
Yeah, we don't have to pay to keep it on the air or on your phone.
Because of our subscribers. So thank you again for that. You definitely are directly supporting the show.
Right.
So thank you. I think that's basically what I wanted to discuss in terms of kind of what I've learned, what you've learned in refining and making the show better. So I think we ought to talk about what's in store for the future, which I would, again, like to do some more remote recordings like we did at Spiral Rock.
Oh, that was so much fun. And all I need, look, if you're going to be a guest on the show, and all I need is 110 volts.
Yep.
Plug it in and we're good to go.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just a cool way to interact with our guest. If you have a business, if you have a space of significance where you want to talk to us and tell us a story, tell us about who you are, what it is that you do, there's no better way to do it than in that space, I don't think. And that was certainly the case with Spiral Rock.
And Stu Davis.
With Stu Davis.
Yeah.
None other than Stu Davis.
Right.
Delicious wines and kombucha drinks, beverages. Thank you, Stu. But yeah, the remote recordings, I would like to do more of that. Again, we will see, depending on things. And on that note, also back to in-person interviews, if we can get that.
That'd be nice.
Again.
Well, shoot, that's something we passed over on the learning curve. Was like, all right, I just figured out how to record everything in my studio, and look, now people can't come into the studio. So I'm like, okay, well, can I put my computer into the mixer and like have it come back in and doing that? It's actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
the audio quality is not as good, but it's still very listenable.
Still good.
Very listenable.
And then I would like to get some episodes that are get some episodes that are more about our wilderness areas, getting outdoors. I want to do some more stuff about like gardening, maybe backpacking, talk to some local guides, do some more fishing stuff, maybe talk to some biologists, wildlife management folks, that type of thing. So for me, moving forward, that's what I'm looking at. I don't know about you, Brian, if you got other stuff or if that's kind of all jiving with what you're thinking too.
No, it definitely is. I mean, as far as backpacking goes, I know for sure I'm going to make another trip into the Seven Devils this coming year, because when I went last year at the end of June, we only made it a few miles because it was covered in snow.
Right.
So I'm going to do that. I think some friends and I were talking about doing another place that's escaping me right now. See, I'm going to do some backpacking this summer for real. More people. We've got a whole list of things we want to do.
Yeah,
46 episodes is not enough.
I have probably at least 46 potential guests for next year.
Yeah.
So,
and I've got one in my mind, which I'll share with you in a minute, that's not even on that list.
Ooh.
So, again, thanks, everybody. I'm so glad that we're able to do this and that people are enjoying it. I mean, I know it's a little bit for us because we enjoy doing this. We enjoy getting together and you know, as much work as it's been, it's a useful skill, I think.
Yeah.
And it's fun for me to do, and it's fun for me to make the music for all this stuff. And it's not always fun to edit the episodes,
right?
But it's I enjoy doing it, but it's not just for me. It's not just for us. It's for everybody that lives here.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are enjoying it makes me happy and makes it gives us a reason to keep going.
Yep. And
which we're happy to do.
Yeah, and it solidifies the fact that there are cool people here that are invested in this community, that are invested in this place. And again, it's also just saying, hey, we live in a really cool place and we need to celebrate that.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, everybody. Have a happy new year. And then here's for 2021. Doesn't have to be the best year out there. Let's just have it be a fine year.
The bar is remarkably low.
It's so low.
So
it's so low.
I think it will be better.
All right. We will catch you very soon.